A project to improve tidal flow in Snows Creek moves forward, and the town of Barnstable continues to achieve excellent financial ratings. We have details on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, February 24th, 2016. I'm Sarah Mannel. A project to increase tidal flow at Snows Creek gets the green light from the Conservation Commission. The project will upgrade the existing undersized culvert pipe to a box culvert. Town engineer Roger Parsons talked about the need for the project during last night's Conservation Commission meeting.
So the purpose of this project is twofold. It has a conventional side, which might be included the preservation of our assets, utilities, roadway, sidewalk. There are many utilities that run over the culvert presently, and we want to make sure that those are preserved when we do this type of construction for the future. Water lines, sewer lines, utilities of gas and communication. We also recognize in this particular instance that there is, I wouldn't call it major, but some safety issues on the ends of the culvert, meaning that there's been some erosion of the head walls around the banking as the approach to the creek areas. So those obviously would be areas that would be fixed by this proposed construction. And so I would summarize that by saying that the purpose is an infrastructure improvement. It just so happens to have another major dimension, and that is one of water quality, whereby to address the water quality, it's being considered as what is generally called a tidal exchange improvement. Therefore, the reasoning behind both the infrastructure and the water quality is dual. It comes with the same proposed solution. The water quality improvements are can be further detailed. As you all know, I'm not a scientist, but those water quality aspects deal with the flora, fauna, benthic and aquatic communities. And in all those cases, we are sure that these areas are going to be improved, meaning that the stagnant waters that might be there in the creek area today or in the future would be addressed by the tidal exchange. Obviously, the introduction of the saline waters into that area should, and we do expect the aquatic communities to thrive more than what they are today, and perhaps mirror something that was in the past, way past history, when undoubtedly a culvert was placed under ocean in the beginning. So, to address concerns that were raised by your commission and others surrounding the area, we have recently gone out and done additional surveys of both the what I call the upstream, the creek side, and the ocean side of the waterway to establish the elevations of the ground or the surface under the water as well as the surface, and we've introduced that information into the modeling that was started to confirm basically what we've been saying, that there's really not a great change in the levels of water. You know, as you can appreciate, and I'm sure you know, the two levels of water that we're really dealing with here are the tidal exchanges that would occur, as well as accompanying and accounting for any flooding that might occur from we'll call it the upstream. In other words, severe rainfalls are going to impact this area simply because it's a catchment area. So we have to balance those events and model those events as they occur simultaneously and as they occur separately.
BL Company's engineer David Chichia was responsible for all of the hydraulic engineering on the project.
Our survey model was within just the primary area of the bridge. We widened that model to go upstream and also downstream down to the entrance into the bay, as shown on the map, the inundation limits of our revised or expanded survey. So we are in tidal area, so obviously the tide plays an important role with the water surface. During low tide, there is very, very little change between the existing and proposed conditions, and that's basically because we are matching the low chord elevation of the existing bridge, and when the water surface is down to where the low chord is, there's not going to be any change. On the other side of that is the high tide, when high tide comes rolling in, the existing and proposed bridges won't have any change, basically because the high tide is so high that it actually does overtop the proposed roadway elevation. Between those two events is when you start to have a little bit of a change, and part of that is the flow coming into the upstream area, and also the tidal effect downstream. The normal flows, you're not going to see any difference, but I'd say the rainfall that occurs probably a few times a year, you will see a bit of a change upstream, as much as 1 foot of water surface elevation difference from the existing to the proposed event. And that is just due to the increased hydraulic opening of the bridge.
After some discussion, the Conservation Commission unanimously approved the Snows Creek Culvert Improvement Project. The town of Barnstable again receives a AAA bond rating. Finance Director Mark Milne says Standard & Poor's reevaluates the rating each time the town holds a bond sale.
Prior to the issuance of the bond last week, we met with Standard & Poor, and they do a comprehensive review of our financial situation, and they assign a bond rating to that sale because the people putting bids on the bonds want a bond rating. So when they submit their bids, they have the confidence as to what that community's ability to repay that bond. So Standard & Poor went through the process, rated the bonds. They gave a AAA rating to the bond issue that we issued last week, as well as they affirmed the AAA rating on all the town's general outstanding obligation bonds. So yeah, so it was a good report from Standard & Poor's. They had several areas that they attributed the AAA rating to. One of them being a strong economy in Barnstable, very strong management with strong financial policies, strong budgetary performance, very strong budgetary flexibility and liquidity, and also a very strong debt and contingent liability position, and a strong institutional framework. So they look at all those categories, and we scored very well in
And the good news doesn't end there. Standard & Poor's expects Barnstable will continue to earn top ratings.
They have also assigned a stable outlook to the town of Barnstable, meaning that they believe over the next 2-year period, we will maintain the AAA rating, and there will be no significant changes to the town's financial condition. So stable outlook is also very good.
Milne says Barnstable is one of about 30 communities across the state to receive a AAA bond rating.
There's, I think, just under 30 communities in Massachusetts that now have a AAA rating, either with Moody's or Standard & Poor. So we're in that upper group. And one of the reasons why there's almost 30 communities within Massachusetts with a AAA bond rating is that Standard & Poor's considers Massachusetts municipalities to have a strong institutional framework. And what that means is they have a revenue source, mainly the property tax revenue source. That's a very stable revenue source, which funds a majority of the operating costs for Massachusetts communities. Many communities in other states depend heavily upon more volatile revenue sources like sales tax and income taxes, and so their institutional framework isn't viewed as strong as those in Massachusetts. So Massachusetts, overall, the state of Massachusetts, as well as the communities underneath the state level of government, generally perform pretty well when it comes to the bond ratings, but there is a very small group as far as that were included in that AAA rating.
And congratulations, of course, to Mark and the entire finance department on that AAA bond rating. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 8 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we'll find out what's on the agenda for this week's Town Council meeting with Town Council President Jessica Rapp-Grissetti. We'll also talk with State Representative Randy Hunt, plus we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.